Penta. This is WICR.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Hall. Jersey Joe, and just rolling along. Like I kind of said at the first segment, the station is back up and running. Everything, the final touches have been put on. The general members will be in here soon enough, but right now, kind of giving the station its semester debut. And at this point, look, it's football season, and that's all that the talk is going to be about. Plenty of it will be discussed in this station. But I think right now, the one thing in the team that I think a lot of people have talked about in the offseason and leading up to it has been the Indianapolis Colts, and Vegas seems to really like them. A lot of people, before their preseason game, I even heard Steve Mariucci talk about he thinks they're a Super Bowl lock. I don't know, maybe he didn't use lock, but he was seen pretty confident. And to me, I've held my belief on what the Colts are for a while now. I still think they are what the 2006-2007 Cavaliers were. And for people who aren't basketball fans, that's LeBron James brought the worst roster in NBA Finals history to the NBA Finals, got swept by the Spurs 4-0. But when you look at that roster, it's almost unimaginable how one player could take a roster that bad to the NBA Finals. It's the same thing with the Indianapolis Colts. Every inch of success that they've had to this point in these last 3 seasons has all been because of one player, Andrew Luck. You look at this roster, and it's just not good. From a defensive side of the ball, there's not a ton to like there. Now, offensively, a lot of people have talked about I did like drafting Philip Dorsett. I think Dorsett's a good player, but I think so many players on this offense are all a product of Andrew Luck. T.Y. Hilton is a product of Andrew Luck. Dwayne Allen is a product of Andrew Luck. Coby Fleener has just never been a consistently good NFL player, and I just don't have a ton of faith in him. Now, obviously, you bring in Andre Johnson, you bring in Frank Gore, who I like, but they're guys who are at the very back end of their careers, especially Frank Gore, a guy who's had so much wear and tear on him running. So, he's been such a good running back for such a long time, but you're talking about a guy like that expected to play a major role who's got so much wear and tear on their tires. We know what happens to running backs as they age more and more, and I just don't expect a ton from him. Andre Johnson, it's similar, not as much. He's always been one of my favorite receivers in the NFL. Just the toughness that he shows, how reliable and consistent that he is. But it's the same thing. He's a guy who's really struggled throughout his career to be healthy for an entire season, has only done it a couple times, and again, up there in age. So I think you added important pieces to this team, but how reliable are they? And it's the same thing, how reliable are the collective pieces on this team? I think the fact that this team has even reached the AFC Championship with the roster that they have is almost unimaginable, and it all shows you how good Andrew Luck is, and it says what the value of a quarterback is in today's NFL. You can have as good a roster as any, but if you don't have a quarterback, you're not winning anything, and that's as much case in point with the Indianapolis Colts as it is with anybody. And it's the same thing with the Seahawks. Now, people, obviously before Russell Wilson's extension, a lot of people don't feel that he was warranted that type of contract, but he most certainly does, because that roster without him does nothing. It doesn't matter how many good players they have, Legion of Boom or not. If you don't have a confident quarterback in there like Russell Wilson, you don't win anything, and that's just what the NFL is today. If you have one, you are in business, and you can figure out the rest of it later. If you don't, you better find one real quick, and that's the case with the Colts. They've had their quarterback now. There's no question. Andrew Luck is once-in-a-generation type of talent. The type of guy who can take a bad roster to the AFC Championship game. Is this roster, though, capable of helping him win or get to a Super Bowl? And I just don't think so. I think Andrew Luck can get you as far as possible, but you've got to start getting those more pieces, building more in. I just don't think that the Colts roster, I think, honestly, I've categorized the Colts roster these last 3 seasons as a rebuild mode roster. It still is. It's since the whole offseason where Peyton Manning, they let go of him and they accepted they're going to move in the new direction and draft Andrew Luck. I've still felt that was a rebuilding roster. This is still a rebuilding roster with some upgraded pieces here and there, but you've got the most important piece. Andrew Luck is there, and it's really going to be fascinating to me to see how he continues to develop this season. I mean, we've seen just his first season, he had a little bit of trouble with the turnovers. His second season cuts the turnovers in half. Last season, it just continues his improvement, his awareness on the football field. Everything that he does, he's a more confident football player. And I think the leap in his game that we see again is going to be even more so. And he's going to need to be, because I think when you look around their division, everyone got a little bit better. I think the Texans got a little bit better, depending on what they do at quarterback. I think the Titans, what they do with Marcus Mariota, who I think out of the gate will struggle, but over time is going to start to find himself. And then the Jaguars are still kind of up in the air. You still don't know. They've got talent on their roster, but Blake Bortles, I don't think any of us still know what to quite expect from him yet. So it is still their division, and I don't think they're going to get a ton of competition within the division outside of the Texans, and maybe if they play Marcus Mariota and he starts to figure things out. But I think at the end of the day, they're playoff locks. That's an obvious one, but all the conversation now has shifted to Super Bowl, and I just don't feel that they're capable of it. Is it possible? Absolutely, because that's how good Andrew Luck is. I really think when it's all said and done, we're going to have Andrew Luck up there with the Montanas, with everybody, all the great quarterbacks, the Unitas, all the great quarterbacks of all time. We're going to have him in that same conversation because, again, it goes back to that LeBron thing. There's that special type of athlete who has that ability, and it doesn't matter how bad the roster is, to take you on his back as far as he could possibly carry you. LeBron even did it again this summer. Just he takes you on his back as far as he can possibly carry you. And we've seen that. It's harder to do in football than anything else because of how important the team aspect is. And just the fact that Andrew Luck took that roster to the AFC Championship game last season, it's still something that I think about every single day, and I sing his praises from the trees, honestly, because the guy is just at a different level than so many others, and I think the leap in his game we'll see this season. What I'm more looking at is what do the Colts do around him? How are his teammates evolving around him? How is the coaching staff going to put everybody in a better position around him? Because there's no questions about what Andrew Luck can do. It's going to be about all the other pieces, not just the players, the coaching staff as well. This is a big season for Irsay. I really think it is. This could be a boom or bust one for him. I mean, clearly you can't argue with the results of the Colts, but I think it's more tied to having Andrew Luck than it is anything, and I think you're going to really need to see a bit more confidence coming from that coaching staff, and it's a huge season for the Colts, it really is, but good stuff. Obviously, a ton of more NFL coming out of the way, but kind of wanted to give WICR its proper debut. Manchester City, the Indianapolis Colts, Andrew Luck. Anytime you're talking about those things, it is a good day, but I'm going to be signing off for now. We'll be back very soon, folks, so don't go anywhere. WICR is back in action.